Parliament will shortly be releasing the report conducted by an independent panel that looked into South African Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane's fitness to hold office. Now, last year, National Assembly Speaker Thandi Modise appointed Justice Bess Nkabinde and two senior counsels, that's Advocate Dumisa Ntsebeza and Advocate Johaan to conduct an inquiry to establish whether there is prima facie evidence that suggests that Mkhwebane is unfit to hold the office of the Public Protector. So, in turn, Mkhwebane filed an interim interdict with the Western Cape High Court to stop the National Assembly from continuing with this process of removing her from office, but that application was dismissed. So, the recommendation of the report, which was handed over to Modise on Thursday last night, will be made public anytime from today. That's what they've said. From the 1st of March onwards, it will be made public sometime this week. Lawson Naidoo, the Executive Secretary of the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution, or CASAC, joins us this morning just to discuss this issue. Good to have you, Lawson. Thanks so much for being with us.
Good morning, Leanne. Thank you very much.
So, I mean, if we look back over this process, I've summarized it in one introduction, but this has been 3 years since the Democratic Alliance actually lodged the motion in Parliament. Let's go back to what initially initiated it and what arguments did Natasha Mazone present in the National Assembly?
Well, as you say, this has been a long-running saga, and the complaint essentially stems from the various court judgments that have criticized the conduct of Advocate Mkhwebane in her capacity as public protector relating to various reports that she has issued, including the Reserve Bank case, the Frida Dairy Farm case, in which CASAC was a party, as well as the ABSA matter. There have obviously been several other judgments subsequent to that, including a judgment late last year, where the court has referred the conduct of the public protector to the Legal Practice Council, because she has fallen short of the standards expected from an officer of the court. So when the original complaint was laid and Advocate Mkhwebane challenged it on the basis that Parliament didn't have the necessary rules in place for the removal of the head of a Chapter 9 institution, Parliament then corrected that defect by adopting those rules late in 2019, and a new proposal was made to the Speaker early last year in 2020, and it is on the basis of that later complaint that the Speaker ultimately appointed this independent panel whose report we expect to see this week.
Yeah. So what is your view on what the report might indicate, especially given that the DA and institutions such as yourself, CASAC, Freedom Under Law, Accountability Now, and others, I mean, the 4 associations altogether, have called for her removal. And some have even taken Mkhwebane to court before on her findings and remedial action on different issues, including the Estina Dairy Farm matter.
Well, indeed. I mean, I think there's clearly a prima facie case for Advocate Mkhwebane to answer to, based on all of the evidence of the judgments, including, as I say, very strong comments from the judiciary about her misconduct, her lying under oath to the courts, her dereliction of duty. So there's clearly a case for her to answer, and one would be very surprised if this independent panel's report does not recommend that a full inquiry be undertaken. That ultimately there will be a decision for the National Assembly to take.
Yeah. Obviously, this is all speculation because we don't know. And I suppose speaking from CASAC's point of view, that is obviously the route that you would like to see this going. But there are huge factions in favour of the public protector and saying that she does belong there and her work is good. So, there are other voices in and amongst all of this.
Well, indeed there are. She certainly has her backers, and there are still court matters pending. So even though attempt to secure an urgent interdict to stop the parliamentary process has been unsuccessful, she is appealing that to the Constitutional Court. We don't have the outcome of that yet. And then there's also the substantive part of her application, which is yet to be heard by the Western Cape High Court sometime later this year, in which, again, CASAC, together with Corruption Watch, are amicus in that matter. And that's where the public protector is seeking to challenge the constitutionality of the rules that Parliament has put in place.
Yeah.
But we believe that the process that is provided for in the rules of the National Assembly, a very elaborate 17-step process, with all sorts of checks and balances to ensure that due process is followed, that Advocate Mkhwebane be given the opportunity to make representations, to give evidence and provide her side of the case, are all there. So this is a proper process. It's a rigorous process, and we believe that this is a process that needs to be followed. Because ultimately, the public protector, like any other Chapter 9 institution, is ultimately accountable to the National Assembly, who makes the recommendation for the appointment and also has, in terms of the Constitution, the power to dismiss that incumbent.
So, okay, we've spoken about the issue that the public protector has challenged it constitutionally, and obviously this issue is still being dealt with. But this awaited report is a recommendation to guide Parliament. So what is likely to be the next step, depending on what the recommendation is? I mean, let's perhaps look at it from both angles. What if the recommendation is not a simple one? Is there a possibility that the recommendations could be a lot more complicated than we make it out to be?
Well, as you say, the independent panel will either find that there is a prima facie case that is made out on the basis of the complaint and the written documents that they would have perused, or that there is no case to answer. And that report, as I say, the Speaker, Thandi Modise, will have to make that report available to the National Assembly and therefore to the public now that she has it. And the National Assembly will then take a decision as to whether to institute a special committee of Parliament, probably an ad hoc committee, to conduct a detailed investigation where they would hear not just look at written evidence, but also hear oral evidence relating to this complaint. It's quite possible that such a committee will appoint an evidence leader to assist them and guide them through the process. And that committee will then make a recommendation to the National Assembly, which will ultimately then have to take a decision as to whether or not to remove Advocate Mkhwebane from office. And if they decide to do so, they will have to do so on the basis of a 2/3 majority of the members of the National Assembly.
This could be a first and unprecedented turn of events if Parliament goes ahead with this process. I mean, it's something, we obviously are awaiting to hear because it's never been done before. What scenarios could actually play out typically if Parliament does go ahead with this?
Well, as you say, this is the first time that the head of a Chapter 9 institution is facing such a process for removal from office on the basis of misconduct, incompetence, or incapacity to do the job. These rules are new. As I say, they were only adopted late in 2019. So this is, the first time they're being implemented. But, should the recommendation be that a full inquiry be held, Parliament can also then ask the President to suspend the public protector from office pending that full investigation. So that's another dimension to what the report may recommend this week, or indeed what the National Assembly, when it considers the panel report, may choose to advise the President to suspend her pending the outcome of the inquiry. The committee is also required, doesn't have a specific time frame, but the rules say that they must conduct their work within a reasonable time frame. And we already know that the independent panel, although it was supposed to do its work within 30 days, was granted an extension to 90 days. But we assume that on the basis of the information that the independent panel may provide, that would be evidence that would assist the committee to conclude its own work.
Lawson, what are the implications of removing a public protector from office have on both Parliament and our democracy going forward? I mean, these implications of a public protector's parliamentary process into her removal, or even her removal if that passes, for both the public protector's office and South Africa's democracy going forward, what are the effects of this?
Well, I think it is a very unfortunate state of affairs that the head of a Chapter 9 institution, somebody who should be, totally impartial, beyond reproach, that should be removed because of such gross misconduct, such stringent criticism from members of the judiciary, and it's been from all courts, and not just, the High Court. She's had adverse comments about her from the High Courts, the Supreme Court, as well as the Constitutional Court. So this is a very unique set of circumstances, one that I hope does not set a precedent, that we wouldn't have to repeat such an exercise. And I think it's incumbent upon Parliament to really look at itself and ask whether the process of the selection of the heads of Chapter 9 institutions is rigorous enough, whether they ask all the right questions, whether they really probe into the capacity of candidates to actually do the job. So there may well be a weakness there. But I think ultimately it shows that the checks and balances in our system do work. The removal of any a public official appointed to such a high office should be a rare occurrence. But where it does occur, we must have the mechanisms in place to do it. And I think this parliamentary process is going to demonstrate that we do indeed have the capability to do that.
Yeah. I mean, just as we wrap this up, there really does appear to still be political support from some factions for the public protector. There are very vocal supporters of the public protector and her work. And that, if she is dismissed, it won't be well received from some quarters. Where will that leave us?
Well, we know, and there have been many allegations that the public protector has played a factional role in the conduct of her duties, that she's been politically partisan, favoured a particular political faction over another, is alleged to have gone after, for example, Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan. Her Frito Dairy Farm report, the first report, just ignored the role that S. Magashule, the then Free State Premier, played in that. And we now see in her later report on that Frito Dairy Farm investigation, she's made some adverse findings against Mr. Magashule. There's a report now, just in the last couple of days, that new evidence has been submitted to the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, further implicating S. Magashule in the Frito Dairy Farm scam. And these are issues that the public protector herself had overlooked. So, the charge that she's been factional is clearly one that is there. It's in the public mind. And, those people whose faction she is alleged to be supporting will no doubt, come to her defense and raise strong objections should she be removed from office. But, this has got to be above those factional party interests, and look at what is in the interest of South Africa, which is having an Office of the Public Protector that really serves all of the people of South Africa impartially, robustly, and holds executive power to account regardless of who has transgressed.
All right, Lawson, we leave it now here, and we wait to see when this will actually come out. So it's any day from now. And any inside scoops, do you know perhaps when this will be released, or are we all on the same page?
Well, I think, it's incumbent upon the Speaker to expedite this process. The rules make it clear that this is something that should not be dragged out. The pandemic last year delayed this process of the appointment of the panel. So one would expect that the Speaker would want to move with speed on this matter to, ensure that it is dealt with speedily, because it's in the interests of everyone, and not just Parliament, the Office of the Public Protector, but also of Advocate Mkhwebane herself, to have this matter speedily resolved.
All right, Lawson, thanks again. Thanks for joining us here on Morning Live. That's Lawson Naidoo, the Executive Secretary of the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution. That's CASAC, talking to us about that much-awaited and anticipated parliamentary report into Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane's fitness to hold office. It should be made public from today. We wait to see when that will happen.